The modern female faces a major dilemma. Her intelligence and her ambition drive her on to make a career for herself. But she also has powerful maternal urges. How can she satisfy both? In small primeval tribes, this wasn't a problem. But in the modern urban world, the workplace is usually unsuitable for rearing babies. So how can she have the best of both worlds? This is one of the most daunting issues facing the modern woman and her mate. These girls in Malta are playing a special kind of hopscotch. The 9 compartments stand for the 9 months of pregnancy, with the last bulging compartment representing the mother's pregnant belly. In fact, the local name for this game, Il Pesciu, means passion or suffering, reminding the girls of the pangs of childbirth. The maternal burden is greater for the human species than for any other animal on Earth. One of the greatest differences between the human male and the human female lies in the unequal distribution of parental duties. I'm not referring to the vexed question of who gets up in the middle of the night to calm a crying baby, but to something so basic that we tend to take it for granted. I'm referring to the primeval topic of the ownership of the womb. In earlier tribal societies, giving birth was usually looked upon as a rather simple procedure, made easier by the presence of experienced female relatives. Here, in one of the surviving tribal societies of New Guinea, this mother-to-be is comforted by her own mother. In contrast to the West, where giving birth is seen as a medical condition requiring hospital treatment, here it's treated as a more natural process. The woman doesn't lie on her back like a hospital patient, but uses a more appropriate squatting position, which allows gravity to play its part, as the baby is quickly and easily delivered. With this mother, fuss is kept to a minimum, and she deals with her newborn in a remarkably matter-of-fact way. But for Western women, this moment is usually surrounded by anxiety and tension that converts a natural biological act into a social drama. Having survived this culturally heightened drama, the mother has, in many countries, been faced with the additional burden of being considered unclean. In many places, even today, she's traditionally confined to bed for 40 days. During this time, her female relatives help care for the baby and do the housework, and her husband is kept well away to avoid any sexual contact. The Church, which views giving birth as an animalistic act, wishes the new mother to be kept at arm's length until she can be cleansed. She's not allowed to touch food or to cook during this 40-day period. Her relatives must do it for her. The ending of this confinement is marked by a special religious ceremony. Here, the new mother is attending her church to be purified.
Ευλογητός ο Θεός ημών πάντοτε νικιαί και εις τους αιώνας των αιώνων. Αμήν.
This ritual marks her re-entry into society, and traditionally it was the first time she was allowed to leave her house. She must stand there meekly and accept what is in truth a masculine insult delivered by a male priest who asks his male god to wash the dirt from her body and soul now that the 40 days are over. In this way, the Church reaffirms its view of male superiority and adds yet another unnecessary burden to the female condition of motherhood. Social attitudes interfere with natural mothering in many different ways. One of the most widespread is the preference for baby boys over baby girls. In parts of Estonia, on their wedding day, couples perform a special ceremony to encourage the future birth of a child of the sex they prefer. The groom must risk life and limb by climbing a special tree to tie a coloured ribbon to one of its topmost branches. A blue ribbon for a boy, a pink one for a girl. Tradition has it that the higher he climbs, the more likely it is that the couple's wish will be fulfilled. In many countries, the bias towards male babies is the result of the fact that a boy will inherit the family name and continue the family tradition. Traditionally, the symbolism of dressing girls in pink and boys in blue reflected this greater value placed on male offspring. The colour blue was seen as the colour of heaven and was therefore thought to be capable of repelling the evil forces that were inevitably attracted to the baby boy. Because the male babies were so precious, they needed all the protection they could get. Girls, more concerned in later life with bodily functions such as menstruating, giving birth and lactating, were given the contrasting pink colour of their body's flesh. Sometimes this colour code is not immediately obvious. I hardly noticed it in the playground of this Egyptian school. But once the chaotic play period was over and the sexes separated into their formal groups, I realised that it was indeed operating here as well. The difference was that although the older boys were all dressed in blue, the girls had been given an Earth Mother beige in place of the more usual flesh pink. When the preference for male children is expressed like this, it causes no problem. But if the underlying message is expressed more strongly, it quickly becomes dangerous. In India, the desire to have a boy leads some mothers to abandon baby girls outside orphanages like this one. There's even an empty cot waiting there to receive them. The weight of the baby in the cot triggers an alarm which alerts staff who hurry to rescue it. All these baby girls were abandoned in this way. In India, there's an added reason why boys are preferred. If a couple have a baby girl, when she eventually marries, they'll have to pay a dowry to the groom's family. These dowries are often such a burden that they can ruin the bride's family. These infants are the lucky ones. Some mothers are forced to see their female babies murdered. Female infanticide is still practiced even today. In China, too, the preference for boys over girls is so great that it puts unnatural demands on young mothers. Their maternal instincts tell them to care for their babies, of whichever sex. But social pressures prevent this, and baby girls often suffer the consequences. Here, the state also interferes with natural mothering in another way. To control the growing population, each couple may have only one child. Here, in this Chinese factory, female workers must get permission to have a child. When they become pregnant, a flag is added to the expecting row. In return for a couple's promise to have only one offspring, the child will be entitled to great benefits throughout its life, such as free education, priority for a university place and for a job.